This stone belongs to one of the Edlers. It is in desperate need of cleaning. The reason that I'm saying one of the Edlers is because I can't entirely make out the text. You might almost be able to read it easier through the video than what I can with my naked eye. You can see here that it mentions Joseph Edler, and that looks as if that is a date of death, and then we'll have their age in years, months, and days underneath that. Another inscription down here. I can't tell exactly what this says up here, which is why one of the big reasons that we want to clean it. You'll notice that it has some lichen growth here. That is quite easy to scrape off. This is also a type of yellow lichen and some more green lichen. Quite a bit of the yellow stuff around there on the side. I'm going to take a little plastic scraper and very gently, you can see that we can rub this off just with your finger. So I will not have to be aggressive at all to get that stuff off, but it's helpful when you have some really gross stuff like this to get as much of that off, so that when we put the biological cleaner on it to get this black goo off, this stuff is really a nemesis. I mean, it's quite difficult to get off unless you use what tends to be a pretty pricey biological agent on it, and that's exactly what we'll do. So we'll get some supplies. Like I said, first of all, we'll do a little bit of scraping on this loose stuff with a little plastic razor blade thing that I have, which is much softer even than this slightly degraded marble. The marble's not in terrible condition, but it has been setting out in our southeastern Ohio acid rain for a while, so it has definitely taken its toll. But we'll get it scraped down a little bit. We'll get some biological cleaner on it. We probably will not use a brush on this one at all. We'll just let the biological cleaner do its thing, which takes a little bit longer. In fact, I've got a couple stones that I've been spraying intermittently with biological cleaner since about 6 months ago, and they have made all kinds of progress, but they still have a little ways to go, and that's basically it. The biological cleaner is wonderful when it comes to getting this stuff off, and eventually this stone will be as white as stone at Arlington Cemetery is, and we should be able to read it quite easily. But we'll have to be patient with this one. We're not going to be able to scrub down to it. So let's get the stuff and see what we can do. Okay, I have replaced my regular glasses with some safety glasses. I have some nitrile gloves on, although what I'm going to be spraying on this is a very gentle cleaner. It's safe for you, it's safe for your pets, it's safe for the grass, it's safe for the stone. We'll talk more about these biological cleaners in a minute. Also, I am using this little gadget. This is basically like a razor blade holder, but the razor blades, which are replaceable, are all plastic. So it's a very gentle tool that we can use to scrape loose this lichen and loose growth that we were talking about a little bit earlier. thought we were going to have a little more of the scrapable blue-green stuff on this side, but it doesn't really look like we do. I'm going to flip my little fake razor blade over and get a little better edge as we go down through the rest of this. And then we have some work to do on the front. Not sure if you can see how that edge has worn away. It just kind of demonstrates that that these plastic blades, pardon the air quotes, are much softer than even this degraded stone that we are scraping. Now, that's not always the case. There are times when you'll come up against a stone that has been so weathered that the surface of it will just feel crumbly. You'll even see little grains almost like sand coming off of it when you rub it. That's a condition that's called sugaring, and if you think about it, that's a pretty descriptive word for it, because it's as if that stone, typically marble or limestone, is turned to a substance almost like sugar. And if you can imagine trying to clean or do anything remotely abrasive with a surface like that, then you know that that doing rough cleaning on it is out of the question. Now, it has nothing to do with the cleaning, but this stone is leaning toward me a little bit. It's not to the point that it's dangerous yet, but it is to the point that it should be corrected. Otherwise, it's just going to kind of continue to lean more and more, and it may take it a year or so, but eventually it'll get to the point that this part of the base has sunk, while that part has either stayed the same, sunk slower, or whatever, and this whole thing can topple. That not only could be dangerous, although it's not terribly common that somebody would be up around these stones. This cemetery does not get visited a lot. But more to the point, you can seriously damage the stone, especially if it were to fall against a different stone or something hard, or even just contacting the ground. And the last thing you would want is a big, thick stone like this to end up fractured. Now, before I spray this thing with the biological cleaner, I want to get as much of this loose stuff off that that I just created as I was scraping away at that lichen. So this is a plain old pump sprayer. It does not spray the water with any pressure whatsoever, or at least no pressure that would be dangerous to the stone in any way, shape, or form. I shouldn't have to say this, but I will say it. Under no circumstances would you ever want to use a power washer or anything of the sort on a gravestone. There are battery-powered sprayers like this, or similar to this, that put out the same strength of stream, and something like that certainly would do no harm. And I've heard people make the observation that having a battery-powered one saves you a fairly significant amount of time, because anytime you spend pumping is that much time that you're not spending spraying. Okay, now as I've gotten some of this wet down, looks to me as if some of the lichen that I skipped over before has kind of plumped up, if you will, softened up a little bit. And so I'm going to pass this to see if I get the surface gunk loosened off, so the logical cleaner doesn't have to work quite as hard as it otherwise would. Again, I'm being quite gentle on this front where the inscription is. As I said, there's a verse or something inscribed down here that's very superficial compared to the other letters. The lettering on this, by the way, is raised lettering. So unlike a lot of stones you'll see, as I look around, most of the ones here are using raised lettering rather than carving the letters into the stone itself. But as I said, we're being especially gentle on the side where the inscription is. That's the most critical thing to save. This is not a time to try to demonstrate your manhood. Move this back around so you can see what I'm doing on the back side, because the back side, I'm really getting a lot more stuff off the stone with it wet than I did when it was dry. And again, I'm not as concerned with doing any gouging or anything. We don't want, obviously, we don't want to do anything that would damage this side of the stone either, but I'm not going to be as gentle here as what I was on the front, just because of the fact that there's no inscription or lettering back here that we need to worry about doing harm to. You can see all of this that has come off with the second scraping. And, you know, honestly, a lesson that I think we can take from this, I think it's very questionable whether that whole initial scrape, dry scrape, served much of a purpose or not. This has worked so much better once I got that growth softened up with some water that my new recommendation is just go ahead and wet her down first before you do anything with it. Another thing I want to call your attention to, let's just kind of move the camera down here real close so you can see this little section of the base. You can really see the grain of the marble. I don't know exactly why this was perhaps got more sunlight on it than some of the rest of the stone, but where so much of it is blackened by this black goo. That's the scientific term for it. This area, you can see, looks pretty pristine. And my hope would be, although it may take us a few weeks to get there, that we would see a result like this on much more of this stone. We'll point out also that well, there are a couple reasons that we want to use water as one of our primary cleaners. The first, if you remember your 5th grade science class, is that water is considered a universal solvent. So water will dissolve all kinds of stuff, which makes it a natural, dandy cleaner. Reason number 2 is that water is pretty darn cheap. I filled a couple containers out of my garden hose this morning before I headed this way. And once I'm done with the water, we will be down to where we've got all the easy to get off stuff off. At that point, we can unleash the hounds with the biological cleaner. I'm going to be using the D2 biological cleaner today. D2 is a brand name. It has been kind of the gold standard of products to use to clean headstones for quite a while. And you can never go wrong using D2. However, unlike water, D2 tends to be expensive. So you sort of need to make sure that you are getting your mileage with the D2. Otherwise, it'll eat you out of house and home. Now, I said that D2 has been the gold standard, and I don't really know of anything that is likely to change that dramatically anytime soon. There are other products, and most especially, this is kind of late breaking news. Within just the last month, perhaps, Atlas Preservation, which is one of the best known, if not the best known, company that specializes in this sort of work and this sort of product, was the country's leading retailer of D2. Atlas Preservation is a privately held company with a founder, president. D2 is a privately held company, and my sense is that it's been kind of a business falling out between a pair of strong-willed individuals that run those two companies. Be that as it may, Atlas Preservation has stopped selling D2. It's still available from lots of other places. You can still get it. It's still expensive. And have developed their own product to compete with D2. I haven't used it yet. I am going to use it. Supposedly, I haven't, it really has just come on the market within the last week or two. So ostensibly, it is going to be less expensive and equally safe and equally effective. So we'll test it out. I trust Atlas Preservation. So I don't think that they'll put anything out that's going to cause you to harm the stones that you're working on. And we will try it. If it happens to be as good or nearly as good and less expensive, then there's a very good chance that I will begin using it more. I'm looking here, I'm just kind of interested to see how much D2 I use on this. Around 22 ounces in this bottle right now. I left my better D2 bottle in my other vehicle. So this is kind of a cheapo Dollar General one, but it will still do the job. Now, I don't know how well you can see that, but even as I spray, zoom you in a bit. Even as we spray, you can see that the foam is turning brown. And that is where it's grabbing some of that biological growth that has been making its home inside this rock and essentially dissolving it. Okay, and again, one of the tricks is don't get too happy with the D2. That's plenty on the surface. I'm going to go ahead and spray some on the base. There is the family name is engraved at the bottom there. Make sure that we're covered up top. I'm going to hit some down this side. I could have scraped this a little bit better over here, but that's all right. Used about 6 ounces so far, which isn't terrible. I always feel a little bit guilty about spraying the good stuff on the back of the stone, but I think that if you allow that biological, that the mosses and fungi and whatever else it is that's growing in there, if you allow them to maintain a foothold, then it's more likely that you will have them cause you some problems in the future. Now, if this was a stone that was granite, for instance, and therefore stronger and less permeable, less subject to damage, I would, at this point, as I sprayed the D2 on, take one of my soft bristle brushes and go through and brush it in real good. Which also helps to disrupt those biologics that are growing there on that surface and helps the cleaner to get in and do its thing. In this instance, though, like I said, I'm not that comfortable getting aggressive with this stone. So I sprayed it on there. I rubbed it a little bit. I'll share a picture of this stone with you, say 2 or 3 weeks from now, and I will predict that you'll see a major difference in the stone. We should be able to read it. There still will be some issues. The cleaner will continue to work for weeks. I will retreat it, perhaps in a month, and I may need to give it 3 treatings altogether, doing it this way with no brushing, to make sure that it's as clean as we want it to be. However, I think you'll see a dramatic improvement in this stone. And for what it's worth, I'm now at about 14 ounces remaining in my bottle, and I started off at about 22. So I used about 8 ounces of D2 to do this entire stone, which is a significant size stone. It's not a baby stone. It's not as big as that one in the background you see for one of the Ripleys, but it is a good size stone. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll check back in on this guy in a little bit.